Hello, and welcome to the April 2012 edition of MPS Today. My name is Scott Cochran, host of the show, and we're excited to meet our guest today. We'll begin by welcoming Dow High School Director of Band, Steve DeRees, and he'll be here to talk with us about the band's recent activities and honors that they've received. Math and English coordinators Bob Cooper and Luann Bensinger will come by and discuss how the Common Core state standards will impact what is happening in your students' classrooms. Now remember that you can watch the show on your local cable channel 98 and on the school website at www.mps.k12.mi.us/MPS-TV. Now to open our show, we welcome the Dow High School Director of Band, Steve DeRees. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Now Steve, you're involved at a lot of different buildings at a lot of different levels here in the district. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at the different buildings?
I start the day at Dow High School. I have the high school bands there, and then a couple times a week I move to Jefferson and I help Mr. O'Connell with we team teach a 6th grade band to make sure they're getting all the attention they need.
Sure.
And then I'll move, depending on the day of the week, I'll move to Woodcrest or Siebert and do a lunchtime beginning band class, and then move on to the opposite school for the end of the day, last half hour of the day, and outside of the school day. Sometimes we'll have 5th grade band classes that go extended beyond the end of the normal school day. So
sounds like a hectic schedule.
It is. I move around a lot.
Do you have it posted in your bathroom mirror or something? How do you get?
I have it on my briefcase, on my desk,
Yeah.
above my computer, and once in a while I get a phone call from a school asking if I'm coming because I got the wrong day and I forgot to show up.
Say, I'm on the way. Right?
I'm on the way.
Yeah.
Get them playing. I'll be there.
Now it sounds like if I'm a parent and I'm interested in having my student play in the bands here in Midland, when do they typically start that?
We usually come in and make a presentation to the students in the fall of the 5th grade. They will have an opportunity to see a big concert this April, right after spring break, at the Center for the Arts. There's a music appreciation concert, and they get to see all the different instruments and people singing, and it's a really great exposure to live music created by students. And then the teachers go in the fall, and we usually get classes rolling before the end of September.
So for their 6th grade year, typically.
But in 5th grade, they'll start in 5th grade.
Okay.
And then by the time they hit 6th grade, they've already had almost a year of training.
So we want to, if a parent is interested, they really want to have an idea in mind by the time their student reaches 5th grade then.
That would be a good idea. Have some idea of what instrument you'd like to study.
Sure.
And then it can change. We try to match the student to an instrument they'll be successful with.
Sure. I know my son is in the 7th grade, and he came home not too long ago with a different instrument, and they were experimenting. He plays trumpet, and he brought home a baritone, I think. And
that's an very important part of it. We start mass pools of instruments, but typically flute, clarinet, trumpet, trombone, percussion, and then we branch out and switch people to other instruments to help fill out the sound of the band.
Sure.
Some of those instruments are a little easier to start on in a group of instruments, so you got a friend who's maybe playing the same thing you are. Saxophones are starting more often now than we used to. We have a lot of students coming in with saxophones for the beginning too.
Interesting. Now, how many students are in your program, say, at Dow High School? How many students do you work with there?
Our most recent head count, we had over 200. We're at 203, and we've been averaging right about that number for the last couple of years. At Jefferson, I'm working with a smaller 6th grade group. Total, we have over 100 6th graders, but my section has only got about 35 in it. And then at Woodcrest, I've got about 45 students, and then at Siebert, 40.
Now, with those 203 students at Dow High School, how many different bands are they participating in?
We have 3 different concert bands, and I conduct the symphonic band, and Mrs. Brusky, our assistant director, does the 2nd band, and they're called the Gold Band. And then the 3rd band is the Green Concert Band, and I also do that one. And we all march together.
So all the students are involved
for
in
marching season, everybody gets to do marching band.
And then you split off into a little bit more manageable groups.
Right,
I would imagine,
yeah.
So.
And that's really important. We have one rehearsal a week at night, and that's really to make sure that we all understand where each other's going and that I didn't mistakenly chart 2 people in the same spot and things like that.
What are those rehearsals like when you have the whole marching band out there?
Oh, it's a thrill. It's very organized. We have terrific student leadership. We have section leaders and drum majors. I can pretty much send the band on out to the practice field, and they'll get started and get all their warm-ups done, and we take attendance, and then we start working on making sure that it's a unified production. So 1 hour of band might have had a different tempo than the other.
Sure.
So we make sure that everything agrees on the Wednesday night, and we're ready to go out on the game for Friday.
And as a student playing, as a young musician, it must be a little bit different if you're used to playing with 5 or 6 people playing the same instrument to all of a sudden have 15 or 20. Probably sounds a little different.
It is very different, and with a lot more people of different skill levels too. You're used to coming up in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade with
Right.
that core group of people. And then all of a sudden when you hit high school, there's some seniors who play pretty well.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
and that really helps spark things to go.
I bet.
And it's very exciting. I remember my first experience in a high school band. I just walked in, my jaw dropped.
Sure.
I couldn't believe that everybody could play so well.
You're incoming 9th grader
Right,
and a
yeah.
current senior, right? You know, as a community member, that's always one of my favorite things, to be out and about in the community in the evenings and to hear the bands playing, whether it's the Midland High School Band or the Dow High School Band, out practicing and getting ready. It's just a beautiful sound as it rolls across.
You can tell it's autumn.
Yeah. Yeah, it just makes it feel like a
And I like to
fall.
say that there's a whole bunch of teenagers that we don't have to worry about where they are or
Right.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
You can tell what's
You know right where
going
they
on.
are. Yeah, you can hear it. They're in measure 22 right now, right? Yeah. Now, the band at Dow High School recently received a number of different honors. Tell us about that.
Oh, we were accepted to perform at the Michigan Music Conference. That is a pretty lengthy process. We've been trying to be invited for about 12 years off and on. You have to submit a recording and letters of recommendation, roster of the band for this year and next, and we've finally got accepted. We found out last spring, and as part of that process, they let us know that we were going to perform, but we didn't know exactly when yet. So
Yeah.
it was sometime over the weekend of the mid-January after the first semester was over. And then we got our details over the summer, and so I was
Okay.
able to tell all the members of the band right
Sure.
away when to commit to that date. And then we had some summer activities. I had some students, new members of the band, came in the summer and started preparing music. We kept one piece of music from Band Festival last spring and brought that forward into the new year, and then all the rest of it was all new, and we had to prepare 5 new pieces plus that old one. So,
So
the program
you had
was
6 different pieces. That's
yeah.
a big program. How long did it take for the program? How long
It was
was
about
it?
a 35-minute program.
Yeah. So that's a big honor just to be selected to play.
It was an incredible honor for us. There are only 4 high school bands invited this year to participate.
That's wonderful.
And we were one of those 4.
So it sounds like from what you're describing, it taking 12 years to have that happen, it's a testament to not just the current group of students that are coming through and yourself, certainly, but everybody who's been involved with the program, past students, current students, yourself, other directors who have been working with the students at the younger ages.
Yeah, it was a total group effort. In October, we had a special all-day rehearsal. I called it a mini camp. So
Yeah.
in marching band, we'll have a band camp where we get everything ready, and we had to get ready for this concert. We had a mini camp, and we brought in a lot of staff members from MPS. A lot of my friends came in and helped out, ran sectionals, and dusted off their instrument, and helped the high school kids prepare their music. I wanted to front load the panic and get everything worked out ahead of time so that we weren't like the week before the big concert still panicking about it. And it worked out very well.
Yeah, how did everything go? As long as we're talking about it, how did the performance go?
It was beautiful.
It was after finals?
It was after finals.
After
It was the
first semester
Friday
finals?
after final exam, January 20th.
Okay.
And we had a 3 o'clock afternoon time. It was kind of prime time for the conference. And the room was full. We had over 500 people in the audience.
Wow.
A lot of directors. And
A lot of experts in the audience.
You know, and former students of mine. I had several students of mine who are now music educators, college and high school teachers who came up on stage to let me know they were there.
That's
It
awesome.
was very exciting. We had a spontaneous standing ovation. That was
Nice.
they didn't have to stop and think about it. So I was very happy for the kids on stage, and we just had a great time. And Mrs. Brewski conducted a piece,
Okay.
and she helped an enormous amount to get that concert together.
Sure.
So it was a real big team effort.
Yeah, the more you're around bands or large organizations like over 100 student or 200 student band like I have at Dow, you realize it's not just one or two people. It takes a whole group to make it happen. What was it like for your students? When they were talking about it later, when you observed them experiencing it, what were they saying about it?
They were thrilled. They were very proud of their performance. We had a neat opportunity to get professional recordings of it for each student. We made sure that every student had a copy of that, a legal copy of it.
Yeah.
And that the recording company did a great job of working with us on that. And it's a real thrill to know that those are out there, and they can always pop it in someday and say, here's the band I was in high school.
Right.
Maybe play it for their kids someday.
That's awesome. Get them interested in playing music, right? Now, that was a great honor to perform at the Music Educators Conference. What were some of the other honors that the bands received recently?
Well, we had, with our jazz band program, we took 3 jazz bands to CMU Jazz Weekend, and we have a Jazz Band 3, Jazz Band 2, Jazz Band 1, and the top Jazz Band 1 band got a second runner-up for Best Section Award for the saxophones in Class A, and as a band as a whole, we got a third runner-up for the band as a whole in Class A. So that was very exciting. And then just recently, the WNEM TV5 viewers poll voted the Jazz Band 1 as their favorite jazz band in the Tri-Cities area.
Oh, there you go.
That was pretty exciting.
That's great. Now, that jazz band, the 3 jazz bands, when do they meet? Which class period?
Oh, it's an extracurricular group. They meet on Wednesday evenings after marching season's over. And we start at 5:30 with the 3rd jazz band, and then 6:30 with the 2nd one, and then the top band gets a little longer time. They go 7:30 to 9.
So it's a lot like any other club or sport or activity that takes
yeah.
place outside of school hours. So
Right.
it's a lot of time and energy dedicated
It is,
to that.
yeah. And we have a lot of interesting performances with them. We just had a concert at Central Middle School to celebrate MME being over.
Yeah.
And then we have a session at Creative 360 where it's a Dow High area jazz night, and that's a lot of fun. Jazz 1 is going to be playing at the Michigan Jazz Trail Festival again this June. We've done that a couple years now.
Sure.
And we've been invited by Herder Music Company to go to their summer camp and perform a concert for all the campers. So we'll try to put that together. We're going to try to go there early so we can take advantage of the zip line and go swimming. And
Yeah, of course. There's some of the fun summer camp type of
some
things,
of the fun
too.
stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. We'll be talking later in the show today about the MME testing and MEP testing with in the Common Core state standards that are coming up. And how do we help students become college and career ready? And you referenced earlier, you have some former students that are music educators now, and that's a wonderful thing. But I think it brings to light an interesting point that you don't have to be a music educator in the future to help develop college and career ready skills but while being involved in a band program. So as I hear you describe all these different performances and being in festivals and competitions, what kind of skills do you think your students develop outside of musical skills that would help them be more college and career ready as a result of being in the program?
There's a big push on critical thinking, listening, analyzing. Does your part fit? You make a decision about how loud you should play. Is it artistic? Are you playing a representative tone quality? Is it in tune? There's a lot of activity in their minds while we're performing that requires a lot of training and a lot of practice. I think being organized and keeping to a schedule, and a lot of our students keep planners for their evening activities,
right?
So they don't double book themselves. And I have an orchestra concert here, and I also have a choir concert and a band concert. You can't let that happen.
Coming up, and
So there are some professionalism aspects to that I think really come in handy later on. I like to see a lot of the students make a commitment and be able to follow through on it. And it doesn't matter if something else more attractive comes up. You have to follow through on your original commitment. We talk about that a lot.
Well, sure, and this is a great example. You have the Music Educators Conference just after first semester exams. The students commit to being part of the band. They commit to playing in that conference. They need to follow through and be there, even if they get invited to go skiing that weekend or something else.
Well, and we had a few people, as soon as that concert was over, they were gone to go on a ski trip.
Yeah.
But they did play the concert.
Right.
They just didn't come home with us.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talk about college and career-ready skills. Here you're talking about perseverance or stick-to-itiveness. Even when it gets difficult, you have to keep practicing, keep working at it to be prepared. That commitment and follow through.
And they learn that they're part of something bigger than themselves too. I think that's a great part of being in a group activity like that. A lot of kids get those kind of things through sports, but they can also do it in large ensembles, band, orchestra, choir. I think it's very important to understand that the group is actually stronger than any one of us individually sometimes.
Yeah, it's neat because we talk a lot about when it comes to music and the fine arts or drama or sports, about being part of a team and how you contribute to the group. But where you're talking about goes even, that's there too, but it goes even beyond that, and to reflecting on how what I'm doing right now contributes to the whole, and making sure that I'm fitting where I'm supposed to be fitting and contributing. And
then our goal is to try to be perfect.
Yeah.
But nobody's perfect, so that's very challenging to, and you can see sometimes when we get close, you can really capture it, and you cut off that last note, and it's right there, and everybody can tell that was it. We really did it.
It's a thrill.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Now, what do you think your students enjoy most about all these different experiences that we're talking about here?
It probably depends on the student. A lot of the students really enjoy marching band. And a lot of the students can't wait for it to be over, and they want to be inside where it's nice and warm. And a lot of the kids like the concert season. Some people are in it more for the social aspect of it. There's a definite benefit to doing something that you enjoy with your friends. We have a lot of adult groups in town, like Midland Concert Band and the Community Orchestra and the Chemical City Band in the summer, where you get together with your friends and make music, and it's very fulfilling, and it's a wonderful feeling to do that. And then we have some students who are dead serious about becoming professional musicians. They want to be able to go out and perform, compose, produce music, and teach, and they tend to get a little more focused as junior, senior year. But they still enjoy performing with a group, but they're focusing in on their personal skill development a little bit more.
What's neat with the technological advances that are out there nowadays, it's much easier for students to start composing their own music and hearing what it sounds like. They can put it into the computer and hear it back, and all kinds of different things. Do you have students right now that are seniors that are thinking about or getting prepared for college or career things? Tell us about that a little bit.
Morgan Wynn is our principal French horn player. She's going to pursue a music major at CMU. It looks like she's made a decision to go there. And I'm very happy about that because my daughter is there as a French horn major.
Sure.
And then Andrew Sheets is thinking about going down to school in Kentucky, I think, to study music production and how to be in the recording studio and all the business end of the music business. And then we have several other students who are thinking about it as an option. Maybe if they don't major in music, they want to be in a band. Our principal trumpet, Susan Fennell, has been taking lessons and wants to be in a college band, and she wants to be one of the better ones, but she doesn't really want to be a music major. So she's been working really hard to develop her skills, because you do have to audition in order to participate. And we have a lot of students in marching bands all across the country. On any given Saturday, we've got 8, 9, 10, 12 students in one of those college bands.
I'm sure they love those experiences too. It's interesting hearing you talk about that, because I was a musician through high school as well, and never got to the level of some of these students that you're talking about, but I knew that I wanted music to be a part of my life, and I would encourage any of your students who are in that same place to pursue opportunities in college. I played with the college music groups that were not the ones for the future professionals, but just for the students that didn't want to give up music yet, and it was a wonderful part of my college experience. So.
Yeah, I think there's one of the biggest band programs in the nation is at Purdue. They really don't have a music major program, but it's all the engineers they just want to keep their instrument alive, and there's hundreds of kids involved. It's really neat.
That's a great thing. It's a lifelong skill and a lifelong love for many people. Well, what was this year like? Can you give us a sense of the typical seasons that you have, let's say this school year, for the Dow bands?
I used to think we'd have a little downtime once in a while, but that seems to have gone away.
Not anymore.
We move right from marching season in the fall. We move into getting a December concert ready right away and cranking up the jazz bands. And then there's a solo and ensemble festival happens in February, and the CMU Jazz Weekend. And
So it's more of an individual competition
those
for
are
the solo
smaller
ensemble, right?
groups.
Small groups,
Yeah.
individuals.
And then at about the same time, Ren Fair usually rolls around, and we participate in that
Sure.
very heavily. And then Band and Orchestra Festival is in the beginning of March.
And that'd be the whole band,
That
or
would
the
be
whole orchestra,
each,
right?
Yeah, each group, and then split into their smaller symphonic band,
Sure.
gold band, green band. And then we've had very great success with the festivals. We perform for 3 adjudicators, experts in the field that come in and listen to each group. And then we move to another room and perform for an adjudicator a piece of music we've never seen before.
Sure.
And that's the sight reading portion. And we've always gotten very excellent ratings. This year we got 1s with all 3 groups.
Sure.
And that's the first division. That's as good as you can get.
Yeah,
The symphony band got all A's even. I was tickled. I showed them their sheets. Every caption, there's a box for the judge to mark a grade in for tone, intonation, rhythm, and when they got straight A's from all the judges.
That's nice. That's very good. So it sounds like a typical student at Dow High School this year in the band program would participate with over 200 students in the marching band in the fall, and then be in their smaller group, 80, 70,
60 to 80.
60 to 80 students in their smaller band, and then have an opportunity to perform by themselves in the solo ensemble or in a small group,
Right.
maybe up to 10 kids, and then be part of a jazz band as well with 10, 20, 30,
About 20.
about 20.
averages.
And then again for the springtime back in their group of 60
Yeah.
to 80. So lots of different types of experiences.
We have the students who qualify at the February solo and ensemble are eligible to go on to a state level too, and that's this coming Saturday.
Sure.
We'll be involved in that. A lot of events going for that. And the spring is a big push to put on a nice big concert. This year we're going to be all 3 bands on the same night, and we're even toying around with trying to do one big mass band
Yeah.
grand finale kind of.
So when's
thing.
that going to be, and where is it?
The spring concert is May 15th, 16th.
May 16th?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that'll be. I think it's going to be at Central Auditorium. We're scheduled to be in there, but we have a little staging to try to figure out to pull
logistics
off
to
my
figure all that
grand
out.
finale idea.
You band directors, you're always coming up with
Yeah.
something, you know? It's always, when the band director says, I have an idea, you always know 2 things. It's going to be great, and it's going to take some work to figure out how to make it
You
happen,
got
right?
you got to spend some time behind the scenes figuring out how to make it
Yeah,
work.
sure. Now, if I'm a community member and I want to just go hear a great band play like your bands or the bands at Midland High School who are wonderful as well, where can we go to find out information about upcoming events?
Good place to go would be each school's webpage. There's usually events listed there, and you can contact the directors at either school, and we can definitely keep you tuned in with what's happening.
All right, we'll have Billy put up on the screen right now the school websites and your email address, if that's okay, then,
Right,
so
that'd be
people can
fine.
know. That'd be great, because even if you don't have a student participating, it's always neat to hear great music.
Oh, one of my favorite things to do is go listen to other. I love band music.
Yeah.
So I go listen to other concerts. I'll sneak into a Midland High concert
Yeah.
quite a bit and get some ideas.
Do you
from
feel like
Mr.
you have to put a
Monroe.
disguise on or something like that? Or no?
No, everybody's very friendly.
Yeah, good.
And we do support each other and enjoy each other's performances tremendously. Bill Monroe was our announcer, and he presided over our event at
Sure.
the Michigan Music Conference.
No, it's wonderful. It's
So
a great relationship. You
It
can
was
see
great
that.
to have a good friend there.
One of my favorite experiences this school year in particular was being at the Midland and Dow High School football game, and at halftime when you have all those students out together at the same time playing, it's just a awesome sound, and it's neat to see.
And we always have a great time in the tower at the practice field next to Midland High. When we put the 2 bands together, Mr.
Yeah.
Monroe and I, wow, that's
a lot of instruments out
and
there,
when
a lot of
every year,
kids.
it's a nice charge to hear that again.
Yeah, I bet. Well, Steve, thank you very much for coming in to talk with us today, and it sounds like Dow High School Band had another great year, and I'm sure you're looking forward to next year also.
Glad I could be here. Thank you.
All right. And in our final segment, we'll learn about the Common Core state standards that are coming our way and what they will mean for our students. So stick around for more MPS Today right after these messages.
Every book is an adventure waiting to come to life. Visit new worlds. Encounter new friends. And discover the power of reading. Go to read.gov to read A Princess of Mars, the first novel to feature John Carter. A new world awaits. Read.
This is one amazing truffula tree. Can you imagine a place where these grow everywhere? Yes, it's called the forest, a magical place to enjoy with your family.
Ooh.
So discover the forest and explore all the wonder that's there. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to MPS Today. In our final segment today, you'll learn about the Common Core state standards and how they will impact what is happening in our schools. Here to discuss the standards are Bob Cooper, MPS Coordinator of Math and Testing, and Luann Bensinger, our Language Arts and World Language Curriculum Specialist. Now, Bob and Luann, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, to start off, how about if each of you tell us about what your roles are with MPS and what you do for the schools?
Well, I'm the curriculum specialist, working with teachers and administrators in English language arts and world language. We work with teachers for professional development and administrate many parts of the curriculum.
Sure. Now, in that position, you're working with teachers and principals at all levels, is that right?
That's correct. It's K-12.
Okay. So for world language, so Spanish, French, German, and then English classes at all levels.
That's correct.
And then you have some other responsibilities as well.
Yes, I supervise our learning coaches within the district, which their specific job is to work with teachers for new learning.
Okay. And what do you do in your free time, right? No free time. Mr. Cooper, Bob, how about you?
Well, I'm the coordinator of math and testing for the district. Been doing this for about 10 years now. The job itself is anything K-12 related to math and testing that you can think of. So it runs the gamut from, like Luann mentioned, professional development with teachers, any administrative tasks concerned with it, developing courses, materials for courses. In the testing world, it can range all the way from the giving of the tests to the analysis of the data that comes back from the test.
So the MEET testing is a big part of what you do.
It's a big part, along with the MME at the high school level and any other tests in between.
Okay. And you were both teachers in the district before you came into your current positions. What grade levels and how long were you doing that?
With the district, I believe this is my 21st year, so I had 20 years teaching at elementary with our district.
Okay. And did you like upper L, lower L? What did you typically do? Or was it all over the place?
Yes. Kindergarten through third grade were my specialties.
Right. And what building was the last one you were in before?
In Woodcrest Elementary.
Okay. Great.
Well, I've been in the district 33 years. Sounds like a long time. I started at Northeast when it was an intermediate school, so it was grades 7 through 9. I was there for about 17 years, all grades when I was there. And then when the 9th grade moved to the high school, I moved with the 9th grade. So I had about another 6 years there, a couple of them as a department chair, teaching a wide variety of courses from 9th grade to 12th grade courses, and then moved to this position about 10 years ago.
Okay. And now, did you do some coaching as well? Or?
Yeah, in my first 12 years, I was everything from football coach, softball coach at Northeast, and then I also coached hockey at the high school and was the assistant athletic director at Northeast.
Great. Good. Well, now, when we talk about the Common Core state standards, we do that a lot at the office and when we work with folks in the schools. But many folks outside of education, parents, may not have heard much about them. So why don't you help us introduce the idea? What are the Common Core state standards?
Well, I kind of think of them as an evolution of the standards that we've had throughout the state. I mean, we started in Michigan with a common curriculum framework, went to more specific, especially with No Child Left Behind, grade level expectations. And this is kind of the natural evolution from there. All states adopted expectations for their students, especially usually in all 4 core areas, but especially in literacy and mathematics. And so the state governors, along with their departments of education, got together and said, shouldn't we have, instead of this wealth of different things depending on which zip code you live in, shouldn't we have a common core set of standards? And they commissioned different groups in language arts and in mathematics to devise those. And standards are kind of what you would think they are. They are what students should understand and be able to do. And that's kind of how they came about. I think they're relatively new, but it was this idea of coming together.
That it should be that students everywhere, no matter where you live, like Bob said, if they have a different zip code, should have expectations that are similar, and also that they can leave high school to be successful in either their career, if they go into the job workforce after high school, or if they move on to college, that all students should be able to be successful entering either college or career.
I think that was one of the things that they tried to do when they wrote the standards. They wanted them more focused instead of all over the place. Clear. They wanted them rigorous, like you talked about. They wanted them to be college and career ready for students. Right. They also liked the idea that they would be internationally benchmarked so that they can compare to other countries. They also like the idea of, best practices, well researched, so that the ideas and the progressions of learning across the subjects made sense and followed the best understanding we had at the time.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
They had an excellent group of writers for these standards. As Bob said, they came from all different disciplines, from areas of research, from excellent teachers, college, all across the board. We had very, very good writers for these standards, and then have moved into two groups who are doing the assessment for the Common Core standards. Michigan is part of the Smarter Balance, and then there's the PARC, and I think Smarter Balance has 31 states that will be working in that area in order to assess these Common Core standards. Well, as we move along.
Sure, and let's get to the assessment in a little bit, but first on the standards, the Michigan curriculum frameworks and then the state standards that we work with right now are in the 4 core subject areas. We're looking at math, English, science, and social studies. When folks talk about the Common Core, we're looking at standards set by folks nationwide, adopted by over 40 states, including Michigan, primarily focused in math and English language arts, correct?
Correct.
K-12, and then for science and social studies, I know as a social studies curriculum specialist, we're looking at reading and writing, technical reading and writing within the social studies and within science. My guess is that we'll stick with the much of the curriculum framework in social studies that's already in place and layer in the more detailed reading and writing. What is your take on the changes that people will see in their students' classrooms? If someone has a 2nd or a 3rd grader or a 7th grader or a high school student, what kind of changes can they expect to see in their students' classes in math and in English?
I'd like to make the point first that I think our curriculum is excellent, and versus changing huge portions of our curriculum, I think we're going to look more at shifts. One of our big shifts we see in English language arts is going to be looking at more nonfiction, informational reading, and writing, really, and including the content areas, as you said, with science and social studies, that'll be a big part of the complexity of reading, that we're sure we're getting in a great deal of reading and writing it within the content areas of the other subjects, especially at the secondary level. We want to be able to focus on text we read, that we can derive good information from those, looking at evidence of, as readers, to go back to the text to be able to explain ourselves for comprehension purposes. Our writing is going to be looking like argument writing. We've done a lot with persuasive writing, and now we're looking for more evidence-based. Not just because I'm credible that I can tell you it's so, but that I have evidence and some facts that will support my writing. Also, informative writing will be a big part of that, and then some narrative writing as well. In addition to that is vocabulary, and that would also cover when you talk about social studies and science, not really touching in these new content core areas. We are looking at academic vocabulary, so that would cover our content areas, and that we're building that vocabulary because that's a very large part of our understanding of what we read, how we can write.
It's interesting when you talk about the reading, it sounds to me like what you're talking about is a different skill set. You know, that we're going to take a look at informational text and draw out important information and be able to talk about it, write about it, extrapolate, think about what might come next. maybe more in depth than what we've been doing before.
Yes, and you'll hear the term close reading, and that doesn't mean by distance. That means that we're looking much harder at that text and being able to derive the meaning that the author intends to make from the reading that we do.
And our goal, we have wonderful schools here in Midland, and we know that already. To do an even better job at making kids college and career ready, this sounds like a good step.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think the big picture is what many of us as educators have been looking for, rather than just developing little skill sets, but to have the bigger picture of what reading really is, and writing, and mathematics.
Yeah, how about in math?
I think in math, much like Luann said, the Michigan grade level expectations were close enough that you won't see much shift in content. You'll see little odds and ends. But I think the biggest change will be in what are called the mathematical practices, if you will, habits of the mathematical mind. So there are 8 of them that you will see in every grade level in the Common Core that don't go away. They're different for a kindergarten student as it would be for a senior, but they're the things that good math people do. And I think you'll see more of that, more of the doing math. It's the processes in math that you'll most likely see the most change in. It's in how you present problems. It's a little less guiding, and have them develop those habits of the mind so that they can, see and make sense of problems and stick with it, for example. That would be one of the practices where you persevere in what you're doing. Too often, mathematics students and even adults will start a problem. If they're not getting it right away, they'll stop. The math practices are about the processes that are important. It's not just the content a student would learn, but how they use that then. A couple of the other ones that you would talk about are like attending to precision, or reasoning both abstractly and quantitatively with numbers, using the right tools, looking for patterns in mathematics, or even being able to, and it kind of ties into the language arts part, is communicating. We haven't done as good a job over the years of having kids communicate why what they've done is correct, be able to justify it and support it in a verbal or written fashion, and actually critique the work of others.
Sounds similar to what Luann was talking about with regard to the close reading and being able to draw information out and talk about it. It sounds to me a little bit like what you're talking about is we've always, and we'll continue to have our students be great problem solvers and being able to understand the math concepts, but you have the idea of being able to find the area of a square or a rectangle, and then there's the idea that says, well, this is how big my room is, and this is how much paint I'm going to need to go buy to paint the walls, right? We want our students to be able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's, if you read the Common Core standards for math, there's a blending between conceptually understanding and still fluency procedures. There's a place for both of them, exactly what you just said, but it's applying that. And it's not necessarily just applying it at the end of that part of the book where you just got done finding areas, so now you do that. Yeah. It's taking it to real life situations, if you will, unique situations, and applying those skills and processes that you put in your mathematical bag of tricks, and then using them and actually working them out. So it is presenting the question, if you were going to paint that wall, what would you do? How much paint would it take?
Right.
And how much would it cost?
That you could put all those factors in there, so absolutely.
Well, currently in the state of Michigan, we test all of our students in the MEP program from the 3rd through the 9th grade and different subjects each year, but definitely in math and English, and then some other subjects as well, right? And then the 11th graders all take the MME, which includes the ACT, and then some other tests on top of that, 3 days worth of testing. So will these tests change?
You're going to see a couple of things change, and it's still up in the air because the first official testing day, in fact, the date that the Common Core, if you would, if there's an end date, it has to be implemented, is the spring of 2015. This Smarter Balance group that Luann was talking about is part of the consortium that Michigan belongs to. It's one of the guiding partners in it. And they are developing tests that will be for those grades 3 through 9 and 11th grade. They will change. In other words, if this all comes and happens on time, for one thing, they're looking at computer adaptive tests. So instead of the paper and pencil and bubbling it in, you'll see students sitting on computers and taking these tests. Computer adaptive also means that not only when you take the test, well, we'll all start in the same spot. By the type of questions it asks me and the way I've answered them, it will come back each time and give me a different question, so that we can really focus on exactly where you are in this continuum of math ability or language arts ability. The part that's unknown, and Luann can comment on it too, is Michigan is kind of unique in that high school test has an ACT and work skill, work keys part of it, and those are required by law. So what's the State Department will tell you right now is they're unsure of how that high school test will clearly change, because they're not sure if by law we're still having the ACT and the work keys, or will we do the Smarter Balance, or will it be a combination of the two. But I think you'll see those changes happen by the spring. They might still call them the MEP test. If you know, I've been mentioning spring, that would be a change, because right now the vast majority of the tests in 3 through 9 are all in the fall. But I would say a lot's to be decided, but they've got some ideas.
And we're currently looking at even next year where they've developed, the state of Michigan has developed what they call the crosswalks of where these two assessments, the MEP test and our Common Core assessments, what do they have in common? And they're going to start looking at not testing the items that do not cross over to what Common Core will expect.
And that, in fact, is starting with next year's test. If it's not in the Common Core, it won't be tested. If it is in the Common Core but not currently in the Michigan standards, they'll make them future items. So we'll start to see what those items are. Luann, you and I were talking earlier about, too, the types of questions. I think people, if you see someone, we were talking about some of the application type problems where they're multi-step that you've seen.
Right, that students may start an assessment one day and not complete it. They will work into another step. One of the examples might be with reading, where they'll use multiple texts. So at one point they may read a text and come back to answer questions on that, but the following day read a different type of text, maybe a different genre, and that next day they'll be comparing the two texts in another piece that they'll do. So it's going to be much more in-depth.
Be more complex.
It will be more complex.
It's interesting when you're talking about computer adaptive testing. I think it's important that people understand that two different students at the same grade level can be taking the same test and have a different experience. But the advantage, what we'll be getting is a better placement of exactly where that student is on the continuum of what we expect them to know. Right. So we could say, well, you know, Billy or Susie is placed at this level on the test last spring, and then this spring they placed on this level, so we can see exactly how much growth they made from one year to the next. That could be a really powerful tool for parents to see how their students are progressing, and for teachers as well.
And one of the other pieces Bob and I have talked about that we think is a strong piece, if this is the plan with Smarter Balance, is that they're going to also create formative assessments that will be able to be given throughout the year. So helping teachers understand where the student is at that point and being able to reteach or to move them ahead as needed.
Sure. Well, it's exciting. Now, as exciting as testing can be, you know, and if anybody was going to think testing was exciting, I guess it'd be a group of educators. So, but the idea that we can get more information that's more helpful so we can help students.
And faster. You might speak to that, Bob.
I think anytime you can put it on the computer, the results are going to come back much quicker. I think the other thing that you've been talking about is absolutely true. That right now, you basically have 4 levels that a student can show up at. So a student can be in level 2 one year, level 2 the next year. We really don't know if we're growing and improving, or we're staying the same, or are we decreasing. And with the computer adaptive, it will be able to narrow it down even within those bigger 4 groups to let us know exactly what's going on there. But even the results turnaround time, now currently we can wait from an October test until January to get the raw scores, and then the release is, you know, early February, March. So it's a long time in results. So that would be one thing that would be nice to be able to get results back quickly.
And we see that working with teachers and principals too, right? And the sooner we get the information back, the sooner we can study it and apply it to what we're doing well and what we can improve on, then the sooner we can make improvements.
Well, I think it's a key thing, and you talk about the Common Core and why is any of this important, but it's important to have the curriculum and the instruction and the assessment all aligned. We've all had experiences where, you know, you've been in a class where one of those things isn't true, whether it's the test is nothing like what you're being taught, or you have a curriculum over here but the teacher's doing something else and here's the assessment. It's really important we align those. That's when the best learning happens. So it's important that we get that data back so we can say, you know, is our curriculum where it needs to be? Is my instruction doing the correct things? Am I doing the math practices, for example?
And is our curriculum that we're teaching supporting
Absolutely.
what students need to do.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like the MEP testing, the MME testing that'll happen next year will be based on things that are both in the Common Core and the current state standards, and that we can expect not necessarily major changes immediately, but we'll have time to prepare our teachers and to work with them to make sure that students are ready for the testing as it changes, with the Common Core being exclusively tested in spring 2015, which is, so we have 3 years to prepare.
And one of the things I think is exciting for our district is many of our initiatives that we've recently had. An example would be our 6+1 traits of writing. When you read the Common Core, that just is engulfed in what they are telling us. That is the right thing to do, that the writing process is going to be a very large part of the writing piece. So it's nice to see that we've been on track and that we're continuing that way as well.
Sure.
And I'd agree, because nothing's out of line as we look at some of the international baccalaureate work we've done. Any of the things we've looked at so far, 21st century learning skills, they all fit in. The core, Michigan had us in the right direction, so the core's not taking us away a ways. I mean, it's keeping us in line with all the other things we're
Kind
doing.
of feel like it's all falling under one umbrella, as it should.
Be a smooth transition. You know, when I think about if parents wonder, well, what happens on those professional development days when the kids aren't at school and you have to make other plans for them, it's these sort of things.
Absolutely.
You know, I think about the work we've been doing in social studies, and a lot of it's been focused on writing in the social studies to help prepare for what's coming with the Common Core. So we're already, just like you are in language arts and math.
And those are
moving
just
forward.
excellent practices that we are doing those things.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Well, let me ask you this. If I'm a parent sitting at home, should I be doing something different to prepare my student for success in school with the Common Core state standards coming up? Or what are good things I should be doing to help prepare my student for success, whether they're an elementary or an older student in secondary school?
Well, as you look at the elementary student, we always want to be sure that they're reading a variety of materials. I think we always think about just books, but in this day and age, we have digital information that is there. We have magazines, many periodicals, and also books of a variety of genres, being able to read nonfiction and fiction, poetry, drama. Those are pieces that we always want to encourage, as well as writing. You know, where can we find relevant spots in a child's life to let them practice their writing and their reading? So always encouraging and also having conversation that really helps a student as a reader and writer to be able to talk about either what they write or are going to write, and talk about what they've read.
Sure.
And in math, it's not because of the Common Core. This should be any time, but it's number sense. When they're young, anytime you can talk math and talk numbers and have them work with money or anything else where you see it in everyday life, it helps them. I mean, the number sense is what establishes what all the students are going to be able to do. It's a key component to all the computation that everybody worries about. And it's something that we don't do enough with our kids. Is as they're young, they can work with different things.
So counting those Cheerios on the high chair tray.
It's not a bad idea. Any place you can work it in. With older students, I think the important thing that parents can always do is support them in what they do. Our biggest concern always is that math is one of those subjects where parents will sometimes tell their kids they weren't very good. And when you tell your students that, it kind of gives them an out for not being there. And you know, I mentioned the math practices, and one of the first ones is kind of sticking with it. And that's math sometimes. It's going to be a little difficult, and you need to stick with it, and it doesn't always just roll out there immediately. So parents are always very helpful when they realize it's important. I know it's a support subject in helping you achieve other things, but when you can do that and you realize it's not all instantaneously, and there are times they might be at home and not have every answer like they'd want it, and that's all right. I think that's very important for parents to do.
So that persistence, and that's a good college and career-ready skill as well. Persistence, sticking to something that's difficult. We've all had that experience at work or in school. And I would add one more to that too, for our secondary students, and that's scheduling. You know, talking to students about not waiting to the last minute to do work, and that's a good life lesson too, because in your job or in college, you need to be thinking ahead to, wow, I have this project that's due, or a paper or an assignment that's due on Friday, but on Thursday I have a play practice or a football game or whatever it might be, so I need to make sure it's done by Wednesday. working backwards from deadlines.
All those good work habits.
Those are very good work habits, aren't they? Well, Bob and Luann, thank you very much for talking with us today about the Common Core state standards. It's good to see what's coming down the road.
And Scott, I think too that if people have questions, they would certainly be more than welcome to contact
Absolutely.
us if they would like more information.
Sure. And we can put out your school email addresses for anybody. They're on the school website, but we'll post them on the screen here so people can see those as well. So,
That sounds good.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for today. Remember that you can watch the show on your local cable channel 98 and also on the school website at www.mps.k12.mi.us/MPS-TV. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on MPS Today.